Okay, so I've seen and heard lots of young men ask women out in really strange ways and just being very awkward about it. And maybe that's been your experience. Maybe you're struggling to get girls to say yes to dates and you're not having much luck. And part of it is maybe you're just clueless, or you've been conditioned by your single mother to ask in a way that's just quite weak and it doesn't really stimulate attraction in the girls you're asking out on dates. So I thought I'd make a video just to clarify how you can best go about it, because I've been raised by a single mom. I've not really had any sort of masculine guidance on this, and I've gone from getting no dates to, I'm not bragging, but just to tell you what's possible, as many as 12, 13 dates in a single week. So if you're struggling with this step of the attraction process, the dating process, then you should keep watching. And if you're really committed to taking your dating life to the next level, then I've got a full dating mastery course for young men that's going to be linked in the description below. The pre-sale's currently on. It's going to be the cheapest you'll ever be, and it will basically take you all the way from your mindset around women to step-by-step actions in autistic detail in terms of how you can actually attract more women in your life, date them, sleep with them, and have fulfilling relationships. So check it out below if you're interested. One of the biggest tips I can give you is that you should keep your eye on the ball. And I see a lot of men struggle with this, where they would just let the girl distract the conversation away from the date and onto something else. So for example, let's say you're messaging a girl that you want to ask out, and one text is you proposing coffee or drinks, and then the second is you asking about her day. And she might only reply to the second text about her day, and she'll tell you, yeah, I went to my Pilates class, then I had coffee with a friend, and blah, blah, blah. And then you go, oh yeah, cool, how was it? Where did you guys go for coffee? And then you never actually get back on track to the most important part, which is setting up the date. And she knows exactly what she's doing. She's avoiding that question, whether or not she's attracted to you. She knows what she's doing. And then you know, pulling the conversation back is only going to work against you. So you always have to keep your eye on the ball and gracefully move back to the topic. So in this example, you might ask her about her day, how it was, and where they went for coffee. But then as a follow-up, you can say, how about Thursday or Friday? Do either of those work for you for coffee? And see what she says. My second piece of advice is that you should be quite quickly asking girls out. You should not be spending weeks, months, years, like, is anyone doing this? Texting girls, and then eventually, you think you're building up to this big moment where you ask her out on a date and it's going to be so magical because you've built up this whole connection with her over so many text messages. Bro, I'm sorry if I'm laughing, but if this is you, then you need to stop doing that, because the longer you wait to ask a woman out, the less likely she is to say yes, frankly. And you might find yourselves investing so much time and energy into one girl when she might have no intent of being with you or going out on a date with you, that you could be investing in other girls who would love for you to ask them out on dates. So it's just a bad trade for you overall. So how long should you actually wait before asking a girl out? And I always say, just honestly, as soon as possible, as soon as it makes sense. So let's say you're texting a girl from your university, you've got her number for whatever reason and you guys are messaging. 3, 4, 5 texts in, just propose something. Propose coffee or drinks or food, and then see what she says. And then you already have your answer. If you're cold approaching, which I highly recommend that you do, then it should be pretty much immediate, because a girl can guess why you're approaching her, why you're speaking her to begin with, because you have an interest in her. So that should ideally be done within the first few minutes of conversation, maybe even the first few seconds. Okay, so we've established that you need to keep your eye on the ball and you have to ask girls out quite quickly into your interaction. The next step is you asking them out at a high point during the conversation. So a high point is a point where she's having a really good time talking to you, whether you've just made a joke and she's laughing, or she's excitedly telling you about something she's done. And generally the energy, the vibe is quite high, quite positive, and she feels more warm towards you. So for example, let's say you say something funny and she's having a laugh. That's when you throw in the proposition. That's when you actually ask her out on the date. You shouldn't ask her out at a point where nobody's really saying anything and it's all a bit awkward and quiet. And if you're a good conversationalist, and in the course I teach you how to actually have good conversations with girls, you're not really going to reach one of those points. But let's say you currently are at the stage where you have some pretty mediocre convos with women. Some of them don't go so well. Just wait for a high point and then you pop the question. Okay, so you've reached a high point. How do you actually ask them out? you don't do it by asking a question, and you don't do it by letting her decide what to do. So this is where, you know, guys like us raised by single moms might be at a disadvantage. We're just not used to taking that dominant leadership role that women find so attractive, right? So you might have asked girls out in the past by saying, oh, would you like to go for coffee sometime? You're asking a question, putting the ball in her court. You're not even telling her when, you're just saying sometime, which is vague as fuck, right? So now she also has to decide when to go and where to go. So you've literally provided nothing. The better way to do it is to say, let's go for coffee this week, next week. Let's go for drinks, or we should grab a coffee, we should grab a drink, we should grab some food. That's when you're more in that leadership role, and you know, you're taking the initiative, and all she has to say is, oh, okay, yeah, that would be nice. And then, you know, you can follow up with the logistics either in person, or you can do it over text later. One thing that women absolutely love are spontaneous dates. Now, this is more of an intermediate to advanced one, so like, don't put too much pressure on yourself to get it right away. It's actually quite difficult to do. But if you're cold approaching a girl, which again I highly encourage you do, and she happens to be free that moment that you're speaking to her, and you've said, oh yeah, we should grab some coffee, you can even ask her, oh, you're free right now, you know, there's a coffee shop around the corner, they do really good espresso, whatever, let's go. And they will absolutely love that. There's just something about, you know, meeting a stranger and you spontaneously go on a date with them, and girls have these fantasies in their minds where they're kind of, they want to be swept off their feet, you know, they believe in that whole like Disney fantasy shit. And so you gotta, you know, you gotta use it to your advantage if you can pull it off. But yeah, that's with cold approach. Otherwise, let's say, you know, you've cold approached the girl and you just follow up with details later over text. So you said, okay, let's go for coffee. She agrees. Say, let me get your number. I'll text you with details. We'll set up the date. And then, you know, a few hours later, you get home, say, hey, it was nice to meet you. Then you follow up with, does Thursday or Friday work for you? So here, in terms of logistics, you want to give her some optionality. You don't want it to be so specific that if she can't do that day, then the date's called off. So give her a few options, right? And if she says yes to one of them, then great. You know, you then follow up by telling her the place. Again, it should be your responsibility. Time, date, location should always be in your court. And if she can't do any of the days they've proposed, then just say, oh, that's fine. Like when might work for you? And I'll check my diary as well. So now you've basically got everything you need to start setting up dates with women. Now, the next part is going to be about, okay, how do you actually get ready for a date? How do you pick the right venue? How do you run the date so it ends up with you sleeping with a girl or escalating and getting her more attracted to you? Then that's going to be covered in a future video, and I've also got a deep dive in the main course. So that's it for today. Let me know how you get on with using these tips, and once again, the course is going to be linked in the description. I'll see you in the next video.